Gather round, friends. It's time for Officials' Tales. Hosted by three retired sports referees that coaches throughout Northern Ohio knew as the Three Blind Mice. They are authors of the book called Officials' Tales. So let's meet the authors and your hosts, Jimmy Borgia, Rick Hall, and Don Nardecchia for today's edition of Officials' Tales. Now here's your host, Rick Hall.
Welcome to a special edition of the Officials' Tales podcast, live storytime edition. With each of us reading our own portion of a story we all wrote. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel and click the alert bell to be notified when our latest show is available. If you're watching tonight, please message us while we are reading or while we're commentating. And it'd be great to interact with our viewers. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on one of my partners. Hey, Nardo.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, we're still waiting on Jimmy. For some reason, we lost him for a minute, but he'll find his way back.
Yeah, he was here with us for the pre-show talk, but all of a sudden he just went blank. I mean, He's done that before during games, but so we're used to it.
That's where the shirt grab comes from.
Yeah, right.
He gets that deer in headlights look, and it's just how it goes. So while we're waiting on Jimmy to come, I think we're going to start. I know we do have a tribute to a fallen partner Jimmy and Don had. I wasn't fortunate enough to work with Jim Maitland. So I'm going to let Don do his portion of the tribute to him. And then when Jimmy finally joins us, we'll work his end. So go ahead, Don. Tell us a little bit about Jim.
Jimmy Maitland passed away last weekend. Monroeville native, went to high school at Monroeville, three-sport athlete, excellent in all of them. Went to Bowling Green, then into the service, and came back home for a number of years. And he officiated basketball for about 30 years. I told the story about the basketball game at Buckeye Central against Charlie Huggins' team, Charlie Huggins, Indian Valley South, and the legendary coach, and how we went down, had that game. And it was a pretty funny story, but Jim was offered that game by the league assigner down there, and he called me and asked if I wanted to go down. It was a game between two very good division at the time. They were Division III schools, I think, still now Division IV, now Division VII, maybe. I think Indian Valley South has consolidated and whatever, they're a bigger school now, but we had a really nice game and enjoyed that. And also my first tournament game I ever got, I worked with Jim, and it was actually in the Northeast District, which doesn't happen much, that they crisscross districts for playoff officials. But he and I worked up at Elyria High School, and after being at Elyria on a Monday night, I had to go all the way over to Defiance on a Tuesday night for a game. So we actually before basketball, when I first started umpiring softball in town, Jim was also he didn't umpire a lot, but enough that the two younger guys were working the games when Jim and I were on the game. We had a lot of older guys, some of my dad's friends that did slow pitch softball. So there was probably 5 or 6 of us younger guys, and they let us work together quite a bit. But Jim moved down, had a career move with the insurance company he worked for, went down to Tip City, Ohio, worked there, eventually ended up in the Columbus area. He was one of the Red Jackets for football. And I think the last time I saw him was the football season of 2016, just before we moved down here. We went to an Ohio State game, and he was working at one of the gates right where we walked in. So a good man, a really good man, a good official, and a very good friend. And Jim wanted to do this story about Jim Borgia wanted to do a story about Jim Maitland, and I hope he gets hooked up because it's a beauty. It's a beauty about it's small school basketball story and the way where we used to dress at some of these small schools. I think I hear Jim trying to knock on the door somehow. But if Jimmy isn't here yet, what we decided to do, I'm gonna read a story that I wrote, and actually Rick ends up in it at the end. But they were watching this the whole night. This game, it was in 2009, or we call the story the 2009 television secret, and I was the sole writer on this one. So here we go. On a Monday evening in January, I find out that the next week's Friday night game between Mansfield Senior High School and Mansfield Madison High School will be broadcast live on television. The two schools were huge rivals, pitting a city school against a rural school, with students from the townships both north, east, and south of the city making up the Madison district. Mansfield has a local television station that's been covering sports in the area for about 25 years. On the way to the game, I picked up Bill Seitz before I went to get Jim Borgia. I explained to Billy that we must not let Jim know that this game was going to be on TV because he had a propensity for getting highly excited if he knew his game would be on the tube.
Mm-hmm.
We arrived at Mansfield, Madison High School. We checked into the locker room, and the athletic director, Mr. Jim Van Tilburg, met us. Always a gentle Mr. Van Tilburg welcomed us, escorted us to our locker room, and told us there was a hospitality suite, and he told us how to get there. Now, the members of the news media love hospitality suites. They come early and stay till the last second, treating the suite as their private restaurant.
Yep.
I knew if we went there, Jim would see the TV broadcast crew and would turn to mush. So I told Bill we should avoid the hospitality room. Jimmy, who is a very good Italian cook, loved a free meal anywhere, anytime. During the first half of the junior varsity game, Jim continually suggested we go to the hospitality room. I told him there was no way I wanted to go and eat this close to game time because we're going to have our hands full with a very fast-paced game. However, Jim finally broke down Billy, and the two of them went to the hospitality room. When they returned, hey, look at Jim. He's driving.
Hey, we finally got him. Look at this.
Is he driving to my house for this?
I don't know.
No, I'm in my car. Rick said, go somewhere in your car. I did, and all of a sudden I looked over, and there it was.
Okay,
So I'm mobile.
I'm going to finish this story. We decided to do this one as a tribute to you. It's about Mansfield Senior.
Okay.
Just hang on.
Okay, so when Jim and Bill returned, Jim excitedly told me that we were going to be on television. He had also asked the guys on the broadcast team to put in a good word for us, something he always mentioned to the radio crews that covered our games. Our pregame discussion in the locker room was rather detailed, trying to get Jim's mind off the broadcast. When the game started, Jim blew the first whistle about 40 seconds into the game. He was on the baseline and called a foul while a player was driving to the basket. I was on the same side of the court as Jim, but was nearer the scorer's table. Jim slowed as he passed by me on his way to report the foul and asked, "Did you see who I called the foul on?" Trying to keep from smiling, I said, "Sorry, Jim, I can't help you. I was looking in my primary coverage area away from the foul." Jim walked all the way to the scorer's table, leaned over and asked for some help from the scorekeepers. which they gave him. We resumed play with 2 foul shots, no damage done. My first thought was that in Jim's overexcitement, he just lost it. We were on TV, and he committed one of the cardinal sins of officiating. I think he covered himself pretty well, and that very few people realized he didn't know the number of the player that committed the foul. Well, about 3 to 4 minutes later, we were again in the same positions on the floor when Jim called another foul in the key. Now, I could tell who was fouled, but not who committed the foul, as it was off the perimeter of my coverage area. Again, as Jim went to the foul reporting area, he detoured to me and said, "I need help. Did you see who committed the foul?" This time I couldn't hold back. With a really sheepish grin on my face, I said, "Sorry, buddy, I can't help you. Not that one either." I said, "But I do know who your shooter will be." And this time someone someone we know had no doubt about what Jimmy had done. Rick Hall. Hey, welcome to the story, Rick.
Yeah.
He was taking the night off, watching the game at home with his high school daughter, Nikki. Rick called me first thing Saturday morning to discuss Jim's memory lapses. Rick recalled that on the first foul, Nikki immediately said, "Hey, Dad, Borgia forgot the number, didn't he?" On Jimmy's second foul call, they both nearly fell out of their chairs laughing. Billy and I both had a lot of fun teasing him in the locker room at halftime. Outside of those 2 instances, only known by a very few, we officiated a very nice game. Jim had his free meal, was on TV, and that was the makings of a perfect night. But Jim paid a huge price for those 2 plays. Nikki continues to this day to pour it on, and she is good at needling him whenever we get together with our friends and families. From this incident, thanks to Nikki, a new hand signal was created for whenever Jim would have a faux pas or on the court with us. The signal consists of grabbing your shirt and slightly pulling it up and down, often with a smile and a shake of the head. So that is the story. Now, just to follow up, the cover of the book, that was designed by Nikki, Rick's daughter.
Yeah.
And she does know a little bit about officiating, as you could tell what she picked up. But she also did the opening sequence, the video for the beginning of the show that we debuted about 6 weeks ago, and it's been received very, very well. And she'll have something else for us in just a little bit too.
Yep. Now we did do a little tribute to Jim Maitland, Jimmy. I'm going to let you tell your story quick, and then we'll get started into what everybody's waiting to hear, the gas station story. So go right ahead.
Imagine. Well, the night Jimmy and I, rest in peace, Jimmy, I know you'd get a chuckle out of it if you was listening to it live. Jim and I went to Western Reserve to do a girls' game. And our good buddy John Spear was also the AD and the head girls basketball coach. We were out there and we're up and down, and going at halftime, come back out, and good game. And at the end of the game, you usually, if you got the ball, you'll toss it over to the people at the table, or depending on where you're at, you might even grab it and go out the door and back to the locker room. Well, this night the ball just happened to be by me as I was heading out the room back to the locker room. So Jimmy and I got back there. I, quick got done, and there's only one shower in our locker room. They have the room that they do. They work on the tractors and trucks and stuff, and the other room was like what is it? Wood shop. And it gets a little dusty back there. I get my shower done and out, and I'm getting just about dressed, and all of a sudden I hear Kathy Yowzy, who was John's JV coach, yelled, "Hey Jim, did you take the ball into the locker room?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "She started through a classroom before you get back into our area." So I went to bounce it off the door jamb, and it hit and it bounced back into me. All of a sudden, Kathy's about halfway there, so she decided to come in to get it. Sorry, Jimmy. He coming out of the shower. He's standing there in his birthday suit, and any time we got together, and Kathy, she'd always get a big kick out of it. But yeah, I did a few other games with Jimmy, but this one's right up there to the top. And I believe this one I had put in the book. I don't think I used his last name, but now it's out.
Well, we do want to say God bless his family.
Yep.
Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And hey, Jim, I hope you have a big whistle, a gold one in that game in the sky. So we do appreciate everything you did for laying the groundwork for us Three Stooges and all the guys that have come after us. So, all right. So now we're going to get the old ball rolling. So here we go. First of all, we're going to start out with some basic rules. Okay. While we're reading this book, all right, we're going to have one review per man per story. We'll just call it timeout. Hey, timeout, timeout. That's if one of us are imbibing too much. Reviews are limited to 30 seconds. The second official may join in, extending time to 90 seconds. After 90 seconds, the reader may choose to extend the discussion, of course. To restore the single review to the man who first requested, the second official or the reader may rule that the request is not valid or valid, which if it's valid, obviously you get a second review. So any valid review allows a restoration of the request to the original requester. And I wonder which one of us is going to be requesting reviews. I have no idea, but I'm guessing it might be Mr. Borgia. So as we get started here, I am going to start off with this, our intro video. Let me introduce you to the scene of the crime. Actually, let's start from the beginning. Look at this. This is the scene of the crime right next to Frickers, where all of this crazy stuff went down. Oh my God.
I think I see Jimmy's pump over there.
Just to give you some.
And there's Frickers.
There's Frickers. So here we go, and away we go. All right. In the book, this is called a 10-degree, 15-minute fill-up. And this is I'm going to start off with my version because it's right at the top. My version begins as most of our basketball assignments start. We took turns driving to the different game locations, and for this trip to Perrysburg, Ohio, our partner Jim was driving. He always picked up Don first, then me. We left my house about 2 hours prior to game time because of the long drive and Jim's tendency to drive like he's driving an Amish buggy. No, that's right. It says very slowly. During the drive, we talked about games that we officiated earlier in the week and reviewed issues that we had encountered. Of course, we also jabbed and made fun of one another as we prepared ourselves for the upcoming chaos, so common in high school basketball these days, and you've seen the videos. We arrived prior to halftime of the junior varsity game. The athletic director escorted us to the locker room and told us to help ourselves to the hospitality room. We settled in and unpacked our uniforms. Jim, as usual, made a beeline for the hospitality room. Don and I went to the gym to watch some of the junior varsity game, which we always do, by the way. That's a good thing to do if you're a young official, to see what the heck you're going to see at the varsity level. We typically do this to scout the tendencies of lower-level players as they usually run the same offense and defense the varsity do, just not as well. Jim caught up with us a few minutes later and said, "You guys should go down to the hospitality room. It's awesome."
Review.
Go.
I just want to call attention that this story just happens to coincide with what happened the pregame of another game that Jim was mentioning, the one we just did about going to the hospitality room. Okay, so just that's valid. I mean,
that's valid. You get one back.
So I got it back. I just want to point that out.
The night's game was rather grueling from the jump ball to the final buzzer. In other words, we sweated our you-know-what's off. 32 minutes of high-speed, high-level athleticism between two rival teams aiming for a conference title. After a shower and sending a couple of text messages home, Don received a call from some local officials asking us to meet them at the local Frickers restaurant. The scene before the scene of the crime. We agreed and drove to the watering hole for good food, drinks, and fun. We all arrived ready to relax and fill our bellies after a long, hard game. And by the way, Frickers is freaking awesome. I mean, it just is. They're not a paid advertiser, but boy, they should be. The meal was excellent as always. Our brothers in stripes regaled us with stories of their games, and we reciprocated. The beer flowed freely, and the food was tasty. Jim, of course, he abstained from beer. He always got Pepsi with light ice, so that's another story. But Don and I made up for it. After a few hours, we began our long trek home. Jim said he needed to get gas before leaving town and headed to the station next door, which you just saw. And the temperature by this time had reached the nighttime low of 8 degrees with a wind chill of -4. Jim pulled up to the open pump furthest away from the gas station, and we asked him if he had a credit card. And Jimmy at that time said, "No, I don't use those. I don't need anything like that." I said, "Jimmy," and Don and I state this, "everyone has a credit or debit card today, if nothing else for the convenience of these type of situations." Jim called me and Don, of course, assholes like he always does, and went to try the pump. After an unsuccessful attempt, he replaced the hose just as the speaker on the pump crackled. And this is my interpretation of what this lady said. I can't guarantee this is exactly what she said. "You have to prepay." Jimmy yelled shit, amongst other Italian verbs that he likes to use. He walked to the station cursing the entire way. Once he paid, he stomped out to the car, lifted the pump, flipped up the handle, and put the nozzle into the tank. Of course, Don and I were heckling him the entire time as the beer had taken hold of our senses. Imagine that. The gas pump kicked in and the gas began to flow. The first $2.50 rolled by quickly as the outside temperature began to drop. All of a sudden, the pump shuts off. Jim began squeezing the handle back and forth to no avail. He hung up the hose in an attempt to restart it. I yelled at him, laughing, "That's all the gas you're going to get." He yelled back, "It's not, asshole. I gave her $20. Jim then tried to push the talk button to alert the cashier inside the station to his predicament. The speaker on the pump crackled again as a broken and unintelligible voice responded. Now I can actually guess on what she's saying to this guy, but I'm not sure it's politically correct. None of us could understand what the cashier was saying, so Jim returned to the station, cursing louder and louder with every step. The F word being the optimal word of choice. Don and I were laughing so hard we fogged up the windows in Jim's car. Jim, shaking his head, marched back to the pump. The cold winter wind became increasingly bitter and continued the 4-letter serenade he had been singing for the last several minutes. He tried the gas pump yet again, and it worked. Hallelujah. As luck, or lack thereof, would have it, the tank hit full just $1.05 short of 20, which he had given the attendant. Jim trudged off again. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm sure Don and I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure Don and I told Jim just to give her the freaking money as a tip and get the hell out of here. Right? I'm sure we did. I don't know. Okay, Jimmy's back.
No, hell no.
Okay,
I sure the hell wasn't going to tip somebody that was screwing me over. And as your people are listening to this, you did hear Rick say that they had the beer flowing freely. So you can only imagine the shape they were in. So,
all right. All right. So here, let me finish.
I think I got my review back, right?
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Don,
that's fact. We had two freaking beers.
2 freaking beers.
And that's what they
All
call
right,
them.
here we
They're
go.
freaking beers.
So Jim trudged off again to retrieve his change, cursing even louder. You could imagine. When Jim returned to the car, Don and I told him that if he had credit or debit card, none of this would have happened. He called us both assholes, berated the station attendant. You could imagine. Who, after further thought, probably was screwing with Jim as well and ordered us both to stop laughing. So, well, we left the station and headed for the nearest turnpike entrance to begin the long drive home. We were still bickering back and forth with Jimmy and, and teasing him relentlessly. He was becoming madder and madder when suddenly we heard this thump, thump, thump on the outside of the car. Jim yelled, "What did you assholes do this time?" And Don looked out the back, of course, and said, "You forgot to put your gas cap back on, dumbass." Jim stopped the car alongside the highway, cursed at Don and me once again, exited the vehicle, and put the gas cap back in place. He returned to the car and declared he would never, ever drive with us again. So that's my portion of that story.
Wasn't much arguable there.
So some of it edited. So who's up next? Whose portion's next? You, Jim, or Don? Don's next. All right. Go ahead, Don. You're up.
If ESPN had a top 10 listing for referee comedy, this would be included. It certainly is at the top of our list. In the late 90s, we added the Northern Lakes League to a list of leagues that we officiated. Made up of larger schools in the suburbs of Toledo, the league commissioner was Larry Morrison, who has spent a lifetime as a teacher, coach, administrator in the Northern Lakes League area. We met him at a summer officiating camp at Bowling Green State University. Most camp coordinators let assigners and commissioners in the surrounding area know the dates of the camps, and that gives them an opportunity, open invitation to attend, allowing them to meet officials they don't know. Larry took a liking to Jim, Rick, and me, and subsequently offered us 2 or 3 games per season, both boys and girls, for many years. We enjoyed the trip to the Toledo area, and we've become friends with a number of the referees in that area. That also meant we expanded our list of places to stop for post-game supper, always meeting up with the Toledo gang. Frickers is a very popular chain of sports bars stretching along well-traveled highways, in this case from southern Michigan to Cincinnati along I-75. That Friday night, we stopped at Frickers in Perrysburg. We had a fun evening catching up with our friends from the Toledo area while filling up with plates of the best wings in Northwest Ohio.
Amen.
And a golden lager or 2. A bitter cold night, Jimmy had to remove some ice from his windows before we left the Frickers parking lot. Next door was a BP gas station with low prices, so Jim had told us he wanted to fill up before we head home. The car had not even heated up before he reached the pumps. He stepped out of the car, and we soon noticed he was having a rough time getting the pump to work. He tried to get the attention of the station attendant, who was seated behind a secure window with just enough room to pass cash, charge cards, and anything else at 3 inches wide through an opening at the bottom of the window. The door to the station was locked for obvious security reasons, as it was well after 11 p.m. There was a sticker posted on the pump stating, "Cash in advance or credit card transactions only after 9:30 p.m. Jimmy hadn't noticed that sign. Now, we're from a small town, and that level of station security was not the norm in Norwalk. Rick and I noticed the small sign and understood Jim's predicament and started laughing about it. He again tried to get the station attendant's attention, thinking that she had to flip some magic switch inside to activate his pump. But she didn't pay any attention to what was going on out by the pumps, and so she didn't see him frantically waving. Rick and I were getting a clear picture of what was coming next. That brought out, "What the?" from Jim. We both yelled while laughing, "You're not in Norwalk tonight, Jimmy. You have to pay in advance." 4-letter words were now being used as pronouns, nouns, adjectives, and verbs as he headed to the attendant's window. Never one to use the charge card, Jim gave the attendant a $20 bill. His four-letter word rant continued as he returned to the pump. We were roaring with laughter as he got the pump working, and he knew we were having a great time laughing at him. Just after the $2 mark, the pump stopped. He tried everything to get it started again. We told him he had to visit his new best friend, the attendant, and have her restart the pump. Rather than walk over, he started waving his arms to get her attention. We could see she was on the phone. Her phone conversation outlasted Jim, and he dejectedly walked back to the window. We swear it was steam pouring from his head as we returned to the pump. The fact that we were in the car laughing and steaming up the windows while he was freezing trying to fill up his car in -0 wind chill conditions may seem mean-spirited, but that night it was hilarious. This time the gas flowed freely until the tank was full. He returned from the attendant's window to pick up his change, and we were ready for our trip home. But not so fast, my friend. This story isn't over. Unknown to Jim, he had forgotten to screw his gas cap back on. Just as we were about to merge onto Interstate 475, headed for the Ohio Turnpike, I heard a very unfamiliar rhythmic noise outside the car. It was coming from the area near the rear wheel on the passenger side. That's the side of the back seat I was sitting in. I tapped Rick on the shoulder and asked Jim if he heard anything. Rick and I realized at the same time what the noise was. Better pull over, I said. Jim replied, all right, what did you a-holes do now? To which I replied, did you remember to put the gas cap back on? Our laughter and Jim's final four-letter word assault of the night filled the air as he brought the car to a stop on the berm, got out in that near minus 15 degree wind chill, and finally finished the fill-up by fastening the gas cap. He closed the door to the gas line and returned to the car for the 65-minute drive back to Newark. Now, it's always good to have some conversation on the 45-minute stretch down the Ohio Turnpike. It assured at least two of us were wide awake. All in all, a really good evening of officiating brotherhood. A good workout of a game, along with the opportunity to share game discussions with others of the brotherhood. We cleansed our souls with an overload of laughter, and we're already talking about who would drive to our next game.
Yeah, that sounds perfect to me.
Hey, yeah.
I think now we can let Jimmy have his rebuttal. Hang on. All right, Jimmy. This is your rebuttal time, baby.
First of all, before I was not on at the beginning, I was having trouble picking up the internet. So Rick told me to get in my car, and I pulled in the parking lot. It came up, so I did not grab the book as I walked out the door. As a good portion of what the two were saying is true, I had seen too many things of people using credit cards, and next thing you know, you're getting a charge on your credit card that you didn't do. And I figured if I didn't have cash to buy something, then I didn't need it. But a 20 spot, am I good?
Well, I'll read your part for you.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I got it right here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, right here, starting right there. That's Jim's version. Jim's version, the frustrated driver. Now that you read Rick and Don's versions of that cold night, here's the real. Excuse me. Here's the real version.
Oh, God.
We'll start our officiating buddies from the Toledo area after a good BS session. Some wings and a few cold ones. I told the boys I wanted to stop and get some gas before heading back. I pulled into the gas station and popped the door for the gas cap. I took the cap off, grabbed the hose to start filling up. I should have known better. It was well after 10, so you have to pay before you get your gas. As I made my way to the window to give my money to the attendant, the wind and the cold seemed to be getting worse. Agree. 100% truthful.
Agree.
I went back to my car to start filling up. For some reason, the pump stopped after I had pumped almost $2 worth of gas. Instead of walking back to the attendant, I pushed the button that was on the side of the pump. She didn't answer at first. That button is there to ask for a date, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, did you wait? Did you get her digits or no?
No. She was kind of she had a little meat on her, and no, and to sit
Okay.
behind that desk like that, no, I didn't get no
All right.
digits. No.
Okay, so she didn't answer at first. Maybe she thought you weren't her type. So I had a few four-letter words for the attendant. I finally got her attention. I asked her what seemed to be the problem. She said she'd take care of it. As I was trying to get the gas pump before I froze my butt off, my so-called partners, who were half in the bag,
I think he's talking about us.
two beers.
I don't know what he's talking about.
We're having a laugh at my expense. We certainly were.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine
the
that.
tank didn't have enough room for $20 worth of gas, so now I had to go back to the attendant and get a bit of change I had coming. When I returned to the car, the boys were still laughing their asses off. I was mad and wanted to warm myself up. I got in the car and drove out of the gas station on the expressway. All of a sudden, I started hearing a thump, thump, thump. The boys really started laughing now. What the hell could go wrong next? As I looked in the side mirror, I could see that I had forgotten to put the gas cap on and shut the door. I pulled over to the side of the road and finished what I should have done back at the gas station and got back in the car. I told my so-called partners they were a bunch of a-holes. We finally made it home. Now you decide which version would be the true one.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But
mine are a couple of guys half faced.
Well,
I had two beers that night.
Come on. I've seen you guys drink. No, hell no.
But I do want to say one little thing. Now you know where Don got the tribute to the Three Stooges. That's on the back cover of our book. Larry, Curly, and Moe. So here we are,
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, we're not the only one that enjoys this stuff.
Yeah, there we go. There's the retired Three Stooges right there.
Yeah. There it is.
The night that we did something similar, we envisioned this night as being something like the night that picture was taken. We sat around a very large dinner table at the Phillips home in Norwalk, and we told a story and then another one, and then they started going one after the other with comment back and forth, and it was the birth of the book, actually, when people said, you guys got to write this stuff down. This is just too funny. So that's actually, I mean, it took some time for us to get the guts and the ambition to write. I mean, right? I have trouble writing a birthday card sometimes, but
So speaking of the book, that's the cover of the book. It's available on Amazon right now if you want to buy it. You can get it paperback, hardback, or ebook, and get it. If you have an ebook reader, you can have it today. Or if you just want to go, if you're local here in the big city, you can go up to the Common Good and you can get it there any day they're open. They have a few copies now. We will be running a special promo coming up for Father's Day. So with all that being said, we are all back. Do you think we have we got about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think we get through this one.
You think we can get through one more?
Yeah, I'll do the first. I got the first shot, and then Rick will do your part, and then you can read Jim's too.
Well, you know what? We'll just let Jimmy rebuttal. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right, you read your part. I'll read my part. We'll let Jimmy rebuttal. Okay, here we go.
Okay, the title of this story is "Whose Cake Is It Anyway?" And here we go. New Regal High School is in a small, tight-knit school southwest of Tiffin, Ohio. There's never been a football team at New Regal High School. It's too small. Basketball is tops, and this night was the final night in their gym. It was built in the early 70s. Even though the school was built back in the 40s, they had a very small gym, and they built a pole barn type building that was adjacent to the school that had more of a full-size gym in it. And so this was the last game. It was Christmas time, and they were going to move to a brand new K-12 building over Christmas time. So as Jimmy reminded us on the 50-minute drive, New Regal always has cake raffles.
Yes.
We headed to the locker room, which was in the old building. Like many of Ohio's smaller schools, the basketball court was small with limited seating along one side of the court. Seating on the opposite side was on bleachers that were on the stage, elevated about 4 feet above court level. Under the stage is where those locker rooms that we were in. That was the gym for the original 1940s school. Under the stage were the locker rooms, our destination for tonight's pregame. Jim stopped to watch some of the JV game and buy tickets for the cake raffle. 25 cents per chance or $6 for $1 were his options. He decided $1 investment was the smart money option. As usual, he wrote ref, big letters, on the back of each ticket and showed them to the faculty member in charge of the fundraiser. Because of the homecoming final game ceremonies between the JV and varsity game, we watched all but 5 minutes of the JV game before heading to our locker room. There must have been 50 to 60 former homecoming queens lined up in the area between the buildings, plus several former kings. It was amazing. The raffle staff then flagged down Jim with the good news: another winner. The student presenting Jim his cake made the fatal mistake of telling him 2 of his tickets were pulled. He asked about his other cake. He wasn't satisfied with the explanation of only 1 winner per evening per person. He asked for a refund of his winning ticket, but we double shamed him into dropping any further discussion. And we exited with the delicious-looking cake.
Hang on, Don. He has a review. Time out.
No, I got a review on this one. I got that cake. I told the girls, I looked at the selection of cakes, and I just happened to see the frosting on the one. It was German chocolate, and I asked the girl.
Number one.
Yeah, and when they gave it to me, I stuck my head back into the door where Don and Rick were sitting up against the wall. And they're laughing because I'm holding this cake. As I'm coming back out, going to the locker room, one of the other cheerleaders said, well, actually, you won 2. And then I asked, where's my other one? And she said, well, you can only win once. Well, I took a step back away from the table, looking to see if this was something that was said, that you can only win once.
30-second review time, Jim. You're going to have to,
Yeah, you got to speed it up.
30 seconds per review.
All right, we you know what?
Unless Rick wants to jump in.
No, we approve it. We approve it.
Okay.
I got it back. Okay. Yep.
Go ahead. Go back, Don.
Okay. So. Okay, so he asked for a refund of his winning ticket, but we double shamed him into dropping any further discussion. Like we both said, come on, Jimmy, you don't need that. Come on, let's go.
Come on, just extra stuff.
The beautifully scrumptious cake sitting on a 50-year-old bench built into the concrete floor in front of a row of busted down lockers was a glorious sight to the 3 of us.
Yeah.
We took our time stretching and getting dressed, knowing there'd be quite a delay with the ceremony taking place. The JV officials finally came in, and we congratulated them on a well-called game. We knew one of the guys, Tom Joseph, as he had attended a 3-man officiating clinic in Norwalk the previous summer. Jim left for the bathroom in the far corner of the room, and while gone, Rick and I decided to pull a prank on Jimmy. We asked the JV officials if we would like a piece of the cake Jim had won. Now, Jimmy was in the restroom preparing himself for the game. He'd been downing Pepto-Bismol like a summer milkshake on the way to the game site. We knew he'd be in there for quite a while, so we offered both junior varsity officials a piece of Jimmy's cake. The first official reluctantly passed as he was already late for dinner with his fiancée and her parents. Good reason.
Yep.
And the second official said he'd gladly take a piece. However, there were no silverware or plates for him to be able to enjoy it. So we told him just to dig into the cake with his hand and take out a piece. Jimmy wouldn't mind. We assured the officials that Jim was a great guy, always offered everyone a little post-game dessert. Of course, Jimmy had no idea what we were doing.
No.
We knew he'd be torqued. We didn't wait for him to return, but excused ourselves to go upstairs into that little gym where we had a chance to stretch and prepare for our game. We couldn't stop laughing about how Jimmy would react to his damaged cake. We waited patiently in that little upstairs gym to give him some time to cool down while dressing. There was an old wooden screen door at the bottom of the steps that led to the locker room, and we knew that when we heard that door slam, it would be Jim coming to confront us. Sure enough, that door slammed, and up he came, demanding to know which of you two a-holes gave away a piece of my cake. I don't remember who spoke first, but together we tried to feed him a king's plate full of BS. We told those guys what a great guy you are. Yeah, they'll think you're super, blah, blah, blah. Jim didn't want to hear any of it. No. Thank God we had a game to work coming up, but he used his... Jimmy says, but he used his hands to tear my cake apart. One of us came right back with, not like he came off the toilet, he just showered. Couldn't have had cleaner hands. I don't remember a thing from that game. That's usually a sign that we had no problem. It's also a sign of our strong friendship. Roughing can be hectic. All the driving and screaming fans can wear on a person. Being able to have fun really helps lessen the tension. You know, you can rely on these guys. I have a long time believed officiating is the greatest fraternal organization in the country. No matter the sport, you find very dedicated men and women who don't care who wins or loses. They decide to give their best for the kids. There you go, Rick. You're up to bat on the next.
All right, I'll tell you what. Instead of just you laid it out pretty good. We'll let Jimmy rebut here.
Okay.
But I will tell you, I won't read my entire portions, but I will skip through. The reason that Jimmy had some gastric distress, and he was literally drinking Pepto, and the Pepto bottle he was drinking looked like it came from Sam's Club, and he was drinking it like it was a Pepsi. Now this is what I wrote. I looked at Don and looked back at Jim and said, if you keep drinking Pepto like that, you're going to die. And Jimmy looked at both of us, rolled his eyes, called us assholes, headed to the toilet. Now, that was prior to the JV guys coming in. Yes, when the JV guys did come in, we did offer them the cake. And they kept saying they didn't have silverware, they didn't have this, they didn't have that. So we told them that they could just go ahead and use their hands. And we didn't stay around to see the destruction or lack thereof, because we knew Jimmy would be ticked. And, he just wanted cake. Now some guy's getting his hands in it. And no offense to Jimmy. We love him. He's our brother. But certain things take Jimmy's temperature from 0 to 100 very fast. And ripping up his cake, Don and I knew was going to be the end of it. So we not only got the hell out of the locker room, we got up into another place well away from him where he literally had to steam a while to find us. So, and Don is right. That's exactly what he said to us when he came to the top of the stairs, found us in the gym, said, which one of you assholes did it? And of course, you got to understand, like I said, we're the Three Stooges. We pick on each other relentlessly. We love Jimmy. It is a brotherhood. He is a lucky SOB. I will tell you this. This isn't the first cake he's won now.
Oh, God, no.
All right.
No.
He's written several stories in the book about some cakes and some stuff he did with some guys in Fremont. So, if you want to buy the book and read that, that might be something for you to look at. But in our defense, we have to pick on Jimmy to get him going. We get him fired up before the game. It gets his spirit and his mind right to do the game. So then that's what, when they're out there talking to him about his only one good eye, he can get by. So, all right, Jim, I'm not going to waste any more people's time. I'm going to let you rebut. So you go right ahead, brother.
Well, first of all,
you want me to read any of yours?
No, because you could read it, but first of all, Nobody ever touched that damn cake. And you can put your 2 cents in and say they did, but nobody did. Nobody, because I asked the guys, I said, you get a knife and a plate and I'll cut you out of this. Nobody wanted to get it. Now you see, and if one of Rick's buddies, his son read this book and he wanted to know why Don and Rick always pick on me. Well, you got to have, 2 half brains to put it together to try to get me going. And besides that, I don't know how many more cakes or pies we might have won if they weren't so damn tight with $1 and to invest in these kids. But that sign was never something on there. The girl said, you can only win once. All I said, I stepped back. I said, I don't see it on there. And then I just let it go and we went back. But I offered both Rick and Don a hunk of that cake once we got back into town. Neither one of them took up on it. So guess what? When I went to Mom's house on Sunday dinner, we had German chocolate cake, one of my favorites.
And I never realized that kid didn't get a piece of your cake until I read the book after it was printed. Up to that time, I still thought that he had got some of that.
No.
Yeah.
He did not.
No. Well, you guys got anything to add before we close out tonight? I think it was a great show. I think we've had some people comment. It looks like it's been fun. So
good.
You guys got anything you want to add?
No, go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm just hoping that we can get, like we were going to have Steve Gray on, and hopefully we can get him on in the next couple of weeks. I also had talked to and ran into Dave Sweet during the fall back in September down on Sunday down at Whitney Field. I had ran into him. My niece's stepson played football, and I happened to run into Dave. And talked about getting him on there with his teams up to Ottawa Glendorf and stuff. And he's, wanting to get into that. Plus, having one of his classmates, Mark Fogg, who, here a couple of weeks back, we did a show with Mark, who was a broadcaster for WLEC over in Sandusky for over 45 plus years. And just hoping to get, a lot more of these people that we had to backlog everything. And now I think we're back on track.
Yep. And all right, Don, what do you got to close out with?
Well, it was fun that I got an email. What I did, I thought I was going to make my old buddy Wes Douglas and our officiating buddy Jeff Todd, who are both baseball lifers, a little jealous. I sent him a picture. We were sitting about 6 rows up at the game at Clemson last night, and we had clear blue skies. It was 70 degrees when they started the game. It was just a beautiful night for baseball. So I sent that. I got a picture back from Wes. I guess he was down at Tiffin University because he sent a picture of Nate Adelman from Norwalk up to bat, and the catcher for the opponent, Ohio Dominican, was Sammy Battle. So those were two of the kids from 2 Norwalk kids there playing baseball against each other. Got a picture of them when one was up to bat and the other was catching. So good for both those guys playing at Tiffin University, and Sammy down at Ohio Dominican. Good Division II baseball there. And the other one, Thomas Fell, is a senior playing his last year at the College of Worcester, and yesterday he pitched 2 strong innings of relief. He's been a relief specialist down there, and good for those guys. All good kids who came through the programs, the youth programs, and the high school programs in Norwalk.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a good shout out. And I want to say, everybody's watching the show live. Everybody's going to watch the show tomorrow. Tape. If you'd like to hear us do this again with another show or another show like this, let us know. I mean, we'd love to hear from the people that watch our shows, and give us ideas who you'd like us to talk to. I mean, we love ideas. I know we're going to bring in some guys. different guys from all over the area. And again, thank you again for watching our show, listening to three old guys rant on about crazy stuff that's happened to us, and telling you again how blessed we were to work as long as we did and have the great support that we had from our wives, our kids, our brothers and stripes. I mean, there's too many to mention. And all the great coaches that we've had. And to tell you the truth, we couldn't have done it without any of those people. And of course, God had a great factor in that. He watched over a lot of us when we were traveling in some of those really nasty weather games. He protected us on the way home and to the games. And I just, want to thank God. I'm going to give him the great, give him credit for everything that we've gotten and everything we've been through.
Mhm.
So, because without him, we surely wouldn't have wrote this book.
It's amazing when you think and you look back at what we had done over all those years. I would never ever have thought that. And this might be a good time also for me to mention that the Bay Area Officials Association have their annual banquet in April. It's on the 12th, and this is their third year with the Hall of Fame class. And two of those guys that are going in were instrumental in my early days. Charlie Floor taught the football officiating class. They put a class together on their own that was basically used as a pattern or used as like the basis for how the state wanted officials to be educated. And that is so many hours in the classroom, so many hours out on the scrimmage field and stuff. And Charlie and Rick did a great job with that. When you look at, Dale Perkins was another one in that class, Rick Goodsight, three Norwalk guys. Charlie was great. He was later the assigner for the Sandusky Bay Conference, and that certainly helped me a lot there get established in that one. Bill Monahan was the secretary of our association, and before he retired from that, he took me aside and convinced me that I should get nominated for the vice presidency of the association, which is basically, it's a 3-year thing. You're the vice president, then you're the president, then you're past president. But I went through that thing 3 years in my time, and it meant more at the end than it did at the beginning because of how long I stayed in it. But those two guys, a third guy going in the Hall of Fame is Greg Bartemus, and he was a guest of ours at the very before football started. We had Greg on, a real football rules expert guy, been down to state finals numerous times, good basketball man as well. And those guys, and Greg was the association secretary for many, many years in the Bay. So, I mean, those three guys had done a lot setting the stage. And two of those names are names that the young guys don't know, but Rick Jeffrey is going to introduce both of those guys. And so they'll know who those guys are when Rick gets done.
Oh, yeah. So as we close here tonight, I want to say God bless everybody. And we'll see you again next time. We'll post everything so you know what's going on. Probably next Thursday, 7 o'clock. We're going to try to make 7 o'clock a regular. So if you got any questions, like I said, any comments, let us know. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Would you like us on a different night? Let us know.
One other thing, when we posted this up on our Facebook page, I did see that Billy Seitz had put in a like for it. So I'm hoping that he's watching tonight and he's getting a big kick out of this and everything. Because Billy was the one that was working with me and Don the night we were down in Mansfield.
Mr. Shirt Grab. All right, guys. That's it.
Well, have a wonderful week. God bless you.
God bless you. Take care now.
All right. Good bingo. 59-22.